Hi, time for another episode of the Thought Project, just so you know, and this is going to be episode 14 of July 2023, and today we're starting out with the song We Are Family by Sister Sledge.
Everyone can see we're together as we walk on by, and we fly just like birds of a feather. I won't tell no lie. All of the people around us, they say, can they be that close? Just let me state for the record, we're giving love in a family dose. We are family. I got all my sisters with me. We are family. Get up, everybody, and sing. Sing it to me. We are family. I got all my sisters with me. We are family. Get up, everybody, and sing. Living life is fun.
Okay, that's enough. I'm not going to play the whole song today. I'm trying to keep the show down a little bit time-wise, so unless it's one where I'm really feeling like dancing that day, or, put together a whole little routine for you, we're not going to do the whole song anymore, just FYI. If people let me know, I'll go back to dancing for the whole song or put together more routines for them, but only so much time in the day, right? So, anyways, as far as I know, looking at economics, job hiring has been down in the U.S. in general. Inflation has been up, but now there's reports coming out saying that inflation has actually stopped finally. So, as far as cost of food and everything that really bother people on a daily basis, that's actually stabilized, but hiring isn't going back up yet. And then, of course, the inflation itself hasn't actually come down; it's just stopped as far as its continued descent going up. And today might be a little different episode. I decided to get off some of the issues. I know it's been really big to talk about Biden and Trump, and I think we've spent a lot of time on that. And I've had this underlying story of like Kendrick and the history behind the KGB, FSB, Patricia, Buffalo Bill, Dan, Cersei, Wilhelm, and and the FBI's role in all of that too, which they're still being heavily questioned about, and the agency has actually been downsized and is in the process of making a lot of changes as a result of everything that's going on. And I hate to say it had to do with those specific cases, but those specific cases in the shell company still operating out in LA actually had a big effect on that agency because they sort of dropped the ball, or worse, realized that the ball was actually too big for them to carry. And of course, the development of DHS. So, how does this affect the U.S. economically? Well, you have a huge cell company operating out in Los Angeles. There might be others affecting all these different industries, fake articles, fake news, things are being hacked. Donald Trump isn't the first person to ever use the term fake news. All of us knew that was going back in the 2000s. I mean, when I was in my certification program at UVA, it's a 2 to 3 year program. We discussed the effect on communications of hacking and fake news, and then the fact that there were people set up at different agencies that were running fake articles. So here's the thing that we need to discuss that's kind of important. Just starting out, is that Cersei is still free today. I'm not using her real name, but she's still practicing as a fake pastor over in Pennsylvania. I looked it up. I couldn't believe it. I thought by now the government would have stopped her from practicing in these fake churches, or even just going into churches like she did. Like she went to the church that I went to in Wisconsin, where she disrupted it and attacked them and tried to turn it into one of the cover churches for the KGB. now called the FSB in the US to operate out of and to run Russian Mafia out of. And she's still doing it in Pennsylvania. So that's actually something where you need to get after the state of Pennsylvania, and you can write them letters about it, you can talk to them about it, or you can go back to the federal government and say, hey, what are you doing? Like, what's the federal overreach issue here that you're protecting Pennsylvania on this? And, for me, it's been a lot of serious saying, I just want to know what the problem is. But, and of course, that was just to get to the point of the problem. But then the next step is to say, this is really unacceptable because you actually have a problem. You're not fixing it. And what are we supposed to do with you that you're not fixing it? So it's important to know she's still free and still actually preaching sermons. I mean, she was running a funeral last fall. Like, what's going on, people? Because she's not a real pastor. It's a front job. Wilhelm practiced for years as a fake doctor. I didn't even know until my 30s that he actually was practicing without a medical license and really didn't have any medical training. And he was in hospitals all over the country, and people got killed and injured. Come on now. That's enough. So we're going to go on to some other stories here. This is a weird side fact, but Germany has been complaining because a number of their citizens have gone rogue, so to speak, and a bunch have gone to Russia to fight. A number of them have also gone to Ukraine. They said more have actually gone to Ukraine to fight against Russia than to fight for Russia, but the fact that their citizenship is actually just getting up and leaving, got involved in the fight, kind of expresses what's always been an issue with Germany that I noted a long time ago in politics and economics. Because as we saw with Volkswagen and their director of technology and commerce over in Germany got in trouble because he turned to have made a deal with Russia. The country itself is divided that way. It has a lot of people that work with Russia, sort of betray the rest of the world economically on various issues. And then you also have other people in the country that are the complete opposite extreme. It's just a really strange dynamic. So it's playing out there now in Ukraine's struggle against Russia, just still currently going on. So, and we need to discuss something else. There has been an issue, part of the issue of the 2000s and maybe in the early 2010s is that there was an issue with people who turned to be Russian assets violating FISA laws and also violating the use of those laws, which is why it's become such a huge issue to limit the use of FISA, because people have actually been using it to try to torture and get information from individual citizens who are not terrorists and not bad, or even people like myself who are just artists or maybe are scientists, to then steal the information and use it. And they always seem to specifically be using it to work for Russian companies or Russian mafia. It's never being used for anybody else. Sometimes it's in correlation to the Chinese and the CCP, but that would not be like the Chinese in general. It would be a group that's just another extension of the Russian mafia and Nazism. And I think the government's still trying to fix it. But this thing with people becoming federal employees or contractors especially are really where it gets tricky. They end up stealing information and, they want to steal songs and they want to steal like a riff you made or something. And then they give it to somebody who's in the Russian mafia. So the next thing you know, this weird pop star pops up who can't sing. She's got all this music and it's been stolen from somebody who's an individual citizen who's a perfectly law-abiding, decent person. And it's been stolen using devices and techniques that were actually meant to be used, for torturing actual terrorists and people who are threats to the U.S. government. Claiming someone's a threat to the U.S. government because they're a talented artist or a painter is completely insane. And an incredible misuse of funds. So it's just totally unacceptable. And I have to note this. Bill Barr has now announced he'll jump off a building if Donald Trump wins the nomination in 2024 for president. So I guess we all know how he feels. I saw some articles that said they think GOP voters are still comfortable with Trump. I have no idea where it's going with him, but I know he's going to be really busy with legal issues. And that may help him and it might hurt him. He has a way of using attention to get himself further along where he wants to go. So I guess you'll just see what happens with that. And Kevin Spacey has been acquitted, but there's been calls in the industry for him to not be uncanceled. In other words, a number of people in the actual entertainment industry and theater industry have decided that he doesn't have the right to actually be back to work. He actually needs to not be back to work despite being acquitted of his most recent set of charges. As far as I understand, he was a pretty voracious sex offender, actually, in the industry. And there's others that still have to be taken to court and charged, or I don't know. So these people may end up in FISA court themselves being charged without public hearings or even notice of public hearings because of their behavior, especially if they're tied in with the Russian mafia. So, and I think it's important to note that right now, let's see. There's about, I'm not going to do that story today. I think we're going to skip that one. There was a really weird story yesterday about RichardDreyfus going off on these standards on films from the Academy Awards for inclusion. I don't think that's a complete story because he doesn't really been somebody who had a history of making statements that sound like that. And the reason I'm saying all that is because there's been a history of inclusion being used incorrectly to then put forward people who are part of the Russian mafia. So somebody's put forward and you think it's a diversity hire and it's actually somebody who's just part of a criminal network and there's no diversity at all. So I'm just wondering how much of the article was really accurate on him because it just sounded really like it just sounded like a really incomplete, badly reported article or intentionally badly reported, was my opinion. Anyways, I just didn't feel like I had all the information. And supposedly there's a new version of COVID that has been found in Indonesia, which is highly mutated, has 113 variations, and 37 of them have an effect on the spike protein, which causes it to be a much more dangerous form of virus. That is different from the Omicron variant, which only has 50 variations. So COVID's still really active in the world, especially, I guess, in Asia in general. Like that whole big area over there, Pacific, all those different countries. So, the Michigan Shipwreck Research Association has just now found a new deep shipwreck in Lake Michigan, which they're very excited about. They have not finished revealing all the details, and they've been looking for it for the last 2 years, and they're just very, very excited. So I guess there'll be more news to come on that. And I'm going to finish up today talking about Meghan Markle, because boy, is she a train wreck, and it's fun to talk about it. And she actually got kicked out of the UK because of the argument she started having with the king, now King Charles. And a lot of it had to do with the fact that he had suspected that her children were not actually hers, that there was even question as to whether or not she'd even gotten a proper surrogate. I can quite frankly say that within the community she has been operating in with the US, it is not uncommon for that community to simply take children and just change their birth certificates and even lie and claim there was a surrogate when there wasn't. And there's been a number of lawsuits around surrogates where it turned out the person really didn't want to be a surrogate and was actually just an abused person or trafficked and didn't even get paid for having a child, and then it was just taken from them. So there was a lie put forward that they were surrogate and they're not. And I wouldn't see that as being totally impossible at all. But that's where the real argument has come from, is that they've basically caught her in England with these children that they don't believe actually belong to her for stealing them. And I think it's time for this light to be shown on the topic, because it's a huge problem here in the US, especially among the set that she hangs out with just, abusing somebody and taking the kid. I mean, look what happened to my mom, and with me and that situation. I mean, that goes on a lot more than people realize. Remember back in the 80s, we used to actually care about missing kids on milk cartons? Nobody cares anymore. There aren't even missing kids signs up anymore. The National Center for Missing Exploited Kids, like, nobody pays attention to them anymore. It's too crazy. And I've seen too many kids where I've been out literally walking around, especially down in Virginia and the DC area, and I'm like, that's not your kid, and that's not your kid, and that's not your kid. And you totally fit the profile of the kind of woman who steals kids. Like one of these whack jobs who steals other people's kids and even bother to have them. And then you're like probably mean to the kid. You're probably going to sell it too later, traffic it. Like, it's gross. So I just get tired of seeing it. It's nice to move away to a different part of the country when I don't have to see that all the time. It's too rampant down there. Ugh. And you need to also note that Meghan Markle was actually fired from Suits, which is having its own sort of comeback resurgence now from the attention, because it was actually a good show. She wasn't on it very much. By the way, she was fired from it. And Jean Klein, one of the executives, actually fired her and does not want her back. So my advice is, I have no interest in fixing Meghan Markle's career. I say bring back Suits, no Meghan Markle, and no plans to invite her back because they didn't want her back anyways, and she's not really welcome. So it would definitely be like a Meghan Markle-less Suits show. It would just be like Suits with no her at all. There's like no point in her being on it, really. So, and as far as this sort of situation that I've talked about, the point about Kendrick starting this fake shell company, because we can make fun of him all day for like going to the bathroom in front of people in meetings, and the fact that like one of his partner's wives also has the same habit of, I think I knew that woman years ago. She did a lot of plastic surgery and she's lying about her age. She's probably in her 20s and she's not. And I'm pretty sure she used to yell at people and tell us that we all had to go to the bathroom out in public. It's so weird. Like, people would wait in line to go to the restroom at the bar or something, and she'd freak out and yell at everybody they had to go to the bathroom outside. And that's what she did. And finally, one of my sorority sisters got mad at her and said, well, that's what trash like you does. Like, we can make jokes about it all day, but You have to get out of the reality of what happened with Kendrick is that, this guy is a psychopath. He's part of the Russian mafia. And, in the meeting he had with me, he started going on and on about how he wanted all these people that were his business partners who were also part of his mafia dead. And I just stopped and I said, how dare you even talk to me about that? I am not carrying out your dirty work for you. And you are going to be reported to the federal government. I'm walking away from you because I am a Christian and I believe in what happens after this life. And I am having nothing to do with this. Can you imagine being so disgusting and weird? The guy is a pedophile and he's after kids and he kills people and he sets up all this money and and I was labor trafficked for years working for free on projects for them and never got paid. And he has the nerve to ask people to kill for him. And there's all kinds of reasons he would do that, but obviously it was probably to get away with not having to pay people. He wanted to knock out his investors and never have to pay them, and probably thought he was going to set me up. And it was just bizarre. He'd sit there and ask me, he was like, why aren't you mad enough? Why aren't you just like, well, did you ever think maybe I'm just mad enough to not want to do anything you say? Maybe I'm just mad enough to want to turn you in and not care about you. Imagine a concept of a world like that. So, and there were a number of people I talked to in the DC area who were just gross and grotesque and were obviously working for him, and now I'm going to expose one by one. Because they get mad and say, well, he said give you a job. Why would you go do what he said? I said, because I actually have values and morals. I know what the legal system is. And I believe in my Christianity. And I believe in general morality and doing what's right. And I have no time for some weird person that just traffics me. It's bad enough I had to work for free. I wasn't about to go do his dirty work for him. I got mad and said, you want people gone? You do it yourself, you lazy weirdo. I'm going to turn you into the government in the meantime. Oh, yeah. I'm one of those. Don't talk to me about stuff like that. You want something weird or dirty done, don't ever talk to me about it, ever. I don't want to hear about it. I don't have time for dumb setups. I don't have time for dumb weirdos that don't pay their bills and just want to kill everybody else off so they can have more. It's all about them. No. That is the show for today. I'm going to go ahead and sing the original version of... It was a song that eventually was called Wrecking Ball by Miley Cyrus. I wrote the original, and I just want to tell you about it for a second here. I'm going to have to set this up technically. So, but it's kind of important to know the backup of the story because it was one of the songs that I was forced to write and then didn't get paid for again. And I just got really fed up with it. There was so much work I did that people just didn't want to pay me for. And I didn't have any choice about it at the time because the situation I was stuck in. It is Kendrick's fault. Cersei and Wilhelm, Buffalo Bill, Dan, Patricia, they all work for him. It's totally his fault. And if his agency falls apart, that is just great. Because I'm not the only person that this has happened to. I know I'm not the only person this happened to. Bunch of unpaid bills and shady behavior. It's just dumb. Dumb people. So I'm going to sing the original version. It's called Rainbow. Thanks. We clawed, we chained our hearts in vain. We jumped, never asking why. We kissed, I fell under your spell. A love no one could deny. Don't you ever say I just walked away. You know I didn't want you. I can't live a lie, running for my life. I never wanted you. I came in like a rainbow. I've never hit so hard in love before. All I wanted was to break your laws. All you ever did was rape me. You raped me. I put you high up in the sky, and now you're not coming down. It slowly turned, you let me burn, and now ashes are on the ground. Don't you ever say I just walked away. You know I didn't want you. I can't live a lie, running for my life. I never wanted you. And like a rainbow, I've never been hit so hard before. All I wanted was to break your walls. All you ever did was break me. Came in like a rainbow. Yeah, I just closed my eyes and swung hard, like crashing You break me. I never meant to start a war. I just wanted you to let me in. Instead of using force, I guess I should have let you in. I never meant to start a war. I just wanted you to let me in. I guess I should have let you in. Don't you ever say I just walked away. You know I didn't want you. I came in like a rainbow. I never hit so hard in love before. All you wanted was to break your walls. All you ever did was break me. Came in like a rainbow. Yeah, I just closed my eyes and swung until it left me crashing in a blazing fall. All you ever did was break me. You raped me. You raped me. And that is this edition of the Thought Project, just so you know. Have a good one. Thanks.